this particular session. So today we'll be starting with the fourth unit, that is the higher order elements like the CST element, quadrilateral element, and axis symmetric element. So in the previous video, we have seen how to find out the shape function of a quadrilateral element. But this particular concept was there in the second unit. But what we thought is we will be taking this in the fourth unit so that we will be having a continuation, because after this natural coordinate system we will be finding out the load vectors acting on this particular element. So there will be a continuation of that. So in this particular chapter we will be studying this what we call it as the shape functions. Then we will be studying about the load vectors, like if an element, this particular element is being subjected to a body force and a traction force, what will be the load vector? What will be the vector modifications or the load modifications we need to take in order to apply the loads on only particular nodes? So then we will be studying the straight displacement matrix for the CST element and as well as the quadrilateral element. After that we will be going with the axis symmetric element. So today we will be studying this CST element, that is called as a constant straight triangle element. So these basically elements are used wherever we have a plane stress and plane strain condition. So you know that in the plane stress and the plane strain condition, whenever we have a particular component whose length and width is much higher compared to its thickness, so we will be solving that as a plane stress condition. In that case, we will be using a 2D element. So in this 2D element, we will be using two types of elements. One is called as a constant straight triangle and one more is called as a quadrilateral element. So depending upon the geometry of the particular component, these two elements will be getting fit into that particular geometry based on its shape, how the complexity of the component is there. So today we will be studying about this constant straight triangle. So in this particular constant straight triangle, it is a triangular element. Okay, it is a triangular element with a unit thickness. A very small thickness is there. Okay. So in this plane stress conditions, we know that the Z is the thickness part and its thickness is very less compared to the length and width of the element. In that case, the stresses acting on that Z axis will be neglected and will be taking only the Y axial stresses. For that case, this particular element is being used. So today we will be studying how to derive the shape function for this particular element. This particular element, the shape function can be derived in two ways. One is called in terms of global coordinate system, or we call it as a Cartesian coordinate system, and one more is called as a natural coordinate system. So today we will be seeing how to derive this shape function in the form of natural coordinate system. So particularly if you see this is the shape of that triangular element and it has three nodes, 1, 2 and 3. So each node as it is a 2D element will be having 2 degrees of freedom. Each node can move in two directions. One is the Q1 direction, which is along the x-axis, Q2 direction, which is along the y-axis. So you can call this as x and this as y. So each node will be always having a 2 degrees of freedom. So this is the representation. We can call it as this as the origin, and we can call it as x1 y1, x2 y2, and x3 y3. These are the coordinates of that particular element, the nodes of that particular element. So when I say modify it to the natural coordinate system, so the same natural coordinate system now, as we told that it is a 2 degree of freedom. The element has 2 degrees of freedom, which means that it can move along x-axis as well as it can move along y-axis. The similar background we will be modeling that same element in the what we call it as a natural coordinate system. So we will be starting from here. We take this as an element 1, node 1, node 2 and node 3. So in this particular case, so node 1, node 2, node 3 are designated by the natural coordinate system, where I will take node 3 as a 0, 0. So which we have done it for a quadrilateral element. I will take it as a 0, 0. So node 3 from right side, it is going along the x-axis. So it becomes 1, 0, where y is not there. So when we go at the top side, so it becomes 0, 1. So we have this this as an n1, this as an n2, this as a n3. Okay, these are the shape function for this particular element. So the values of the shape function we will be deriving here. So first we will be seeing an interpolation function. As see here, as each node has 2 degrees of freedom, we need to go for the constant values here. So each node is having 2 degrees of freedom, means I will be going a quadratic equation. So for that case, we will be going for a linear equation here. I have taken shape function n1, which varies a0 plus a1 zeta plus a2 beta. Okay, so this is just a linear interpolation function which we have taken. So based on this linear interpolation function, we will be trying to find out the values of the shape function. You can later in the advanced FEM you can use the quadratic cubic interpolation function to what we call it as to get accurately the shape function values. Okay, so how to find out these values? We will be seeing 3 different values of nodes here, 1, 2 and 3. So at node 1, n1 will be 1. Okay, and we will be seeing its zeta and theta values. Okay, so at node 1, okay, n1 is equal to 1, where zeta is 1 and theta is 0. Okay, zeta is 1 and theta is 0. So this is the value of that. So if I substitute here, I take 1 is equal to a0 is a constant plus a1. So a1 into 1 is a1. a2 into 0 will be 0. So this will be a first equation. Okay, this will be a first equation. So next we will go for the second node. At node 2, n1 will be equal to 0. n1 will be equal to 0. So at node 2, n1 will be equal to 0. What are the coordinates here? So zeta is equal to 0 and theta is equal to 1. Okay, zeta is equal to 0 and theta is equal to 1. So if I substitute in this particular equation, so n1 is 0 at node 2. What are the values? a0 is a constant and keep it as it is. So a1 into 0 is 0. a2 into theta is theta. Sorry, a2. So we will be getting the value as a0 plus a2. So similarly, at node 3, once again what happens? n1 is equal to 0 and zeta is 0 and theta is equal to 0. So if you go for the node 3 value, okay. So if you just substitute here, what happens? This is 0, a0 and keep it as it is, a1 and a2 both are the zeta and theta values are 0, so it will be 0. So you already got the values of a0 is equal to 0. Okay, so now we will be try to find out the values of a1 and a2. Okay, a1 and a2. So simple it is. So if I just see from these 2 equations, so a0 is 0, which means that a2 will be 0. So we just substitute here a0 0, we will be getting a2 is equal to 0. So if I substitute a0 is equal to 0 here, I will be getting a1 is equal to 1. a1 is equal to 1. So what will be the shape function here? So n1 is equal to a0 is 0, we will be eliminating, a1 is 1, so we will be getting zeta, a2 is 0, so you will not be getting the value of beta. So n1 will be the value zeta. N1 will be zeta here. So this is the shape function for the first node. Okay, that is n1. So next we will be going for the n2. So next we will be going for the n2 shape function. We got n1 is equal to zeta here. Now next we will be writing n2 here. I will just write it down what is n2 value. n1 we got it as zeta. Okay. Next we will go for n2. The same procedure we will be following at node 1. At node 1. Okay. So what is the value of n2? n2 will be equal to A2 will be 0 here. So next at node 2, n2 is equal to 1, where zeta is 0 and eta is equal to 1. So if you do that, what you will be getting? 1 is equal to a0 plus a2. 1 is equal to a0 plus a2. So next, when you go for the third at node 3, okay, at node 3, n2 is 0, where zeta is equal to 0, eta is equal to. So when you do that, what happens? So 0 is equal to a1. Okay, as zeta and eta is equal to 0, you will be getting a0 is equal to 0. Just substitute here. What you will be getting? When you substitute here, a0 is 0. Here a1 will be equal to 0 and a2 will be equal to 1. Okay, if you just substitute in the main equation, n2 is equal to, as a0 is 0, you will be getting 0. A1 is 0, you will be getting 0. A2 is equal to 1, you will be getting it as eta. Okay, you will be getting it as. So this is the value of n2. So just you have write it here. N2 is equal to. So on the similar background, we will be going for the next shape function, that is n3. So let's rub it out. So I have read it n3 here. So once again, the same thing will be following. We will be writing the boundary conditions at different nodes. Okay. So at node 1, what is n3? n3 is equal to 0. Okay, where zeta is 1 and eta is 0. Okay, where zeta is equal to 1 and eta is equal to 0. So what happens here is 0 is equal to a0 plus a1. Okay, 0 is equal to a0 plus a1. Just check it out. Okay, at node 2, n3 is equal to 0. Okay, where zeta is equal to 0 and eta is equal to 1. So if I do that, what happens? 0 is equal to a0 plus a2. a0 plus a2. So next at node 3, okay, n3 is equal to 1, where zeta is equal to 0 and eta is equal to 0. So what happens? 1 is equal to a0. 1 is equal to a0. So if you just substitute a0 is equal to 1 here, so what you will be getting? So if I substitute a0 is equal to 1, a2 will be equal to minus 1. If the same thing I substitute here, a1 is equal to minus 1. a1 is equal to minus 1. So what happens? If I just write down the shape function for this, so n3 will be equal to 1. Okay, as a1 is minus 1 into zeta will be minus zeta. Okay, and a2 into minus 1, it will be minus. So this is the shape function for the third node. So that will be n3 here. n3 is equal to 1 minus zeta minus a. So these are the three shape functions we will be writing and we have to find out. And we just showing the variation of these shape functions. So just see how with respect to this particular element how the variation will take place. So first for n1 we will write it out. Okay, so for n1, so I will just draw this element. Okay, this is an element. This is the first node, this is the second node, and this is the third. At node 1, n1 is equal to 1, which means that we have got a n1 value as 1. So the remaining will be just joining that particular n1. Okay, so this is the shape which we will be having. So I just highlight the variation. We have got. Okay, so like this we have to showcase the variation. For n2, so if I draw that same shape, is how we will be deriving the shape function for a CST element. It is a simple derivation. Okay, in case of a natural coordinate system, when you go for the global coordinate system, we will be taking these coordinates x1, y1, x2, y2 and x3, y3 as a base to find out the values of the shape function in a global coordinate system. Thank you. Okay, I welcome you all for this particular session. In this session, we will be seeing how to find out the load vectors because of the two different loads. That is, one is for the body force and one is for the traction force. You already know that whenever we are solving in an FEM, we cannot take directly the body force or a traction force which is acting on an element, because the basic of an FEM solution is the load has to act on the particular nodes only, so that we can find out the values of the displacement. Other than that, if it is acting directly on the element, we need to have a conversion factor for a body force or a traction force, which can be converted into a equivalent nodal loads. Okay, so same thing will be talking about this CST element. So basically, which we have done for the beams also, and also as well as for the bar also. So for a bar, when it is being subjected to its self weight, we have converted into nodal forces, as well as for the beams. In case of a UPL load, we have done the conversion for this. The same thing will be working out for this CST element. In this particular element, if I take just a rough space or any element or any object, if it is being divided by the 2D element, okay, so it looks like similarly like this, where we have all the triangular elements here. So if that particular object it is being subjected to a body force or any traction force, so it will be subjected on the elements. Okay, so these elements, as it is having a curvature, it will come closely to that particular shape. It will not form the curvature. Okay, so it will be slowly going to that particular shape. So it will not be 100% filled here. Okay, so if you want to do 100% filled, you have to increase the number of elements. So if such element, this particular element, if it is being having a body force or a traction force, I need to convert those into the nodal forces. So for this, we have taken a CST element here. Okay, I have already told you the triangular element of the CST 2D element will be having a very small thickness, So for the derivation part, I have assumed a small thickness of this element to be T. Okay, so if I take a body force which is acting on a particular element, okay, so what will be the forces which will be acting on those nodes will be, as we are doing a 2D analysis and we are neglecting the Z part, we are not interested what is the force which is acting on the Z part. The force components will be along the x-axis and along the y-axis on a particular node, which will be having fx and fy, fx and fy. Okay, and its particular these are the node numbers 1, 2, 3. So if I take the displacement of this will be q1, q2, q3, q4 and q5, q6. Okay, so once again we will be doing the load vector derivation with the basic formula, which is called as a work potential. Okay, so we will be taking work potential due to body force. We take it as we know that work potential basically given as an integration because of the body force, integration volume. Okay, U transpose F is the body force parameter into d. Okay, this already we have done this particular equation. We have already seen this equation in bar and as well as in beams. So that is work potential is integration to the volume. U transpose will be the displacement. F will be the body force parameter into d. So now when I try to do it for this is a 3D general equation. So when I want to convert it into this particular domain or particular triangular element, it is having a length as well as width. Okay, and it is having a small thickness. So what we are doing is we will be converting it to 2D as integration. We will take it as an area. This is an area here. Integration as an area. U transpose converted into thickness into area. So that is, I write it as T into D. T into D. So now we need to see what are these parameters now. Okay, U is a field variable here. U is a field variable. Okay, so when I want to write the U as a field variable, we need to know how many types of displacement is happening. U is a general equation which is taking place here. So when I take these nodes or when I take this element, when it is going under the deformation, what happens here is it is being subjected to two types of displacement. One is along x-axis and one more is along y-axis. So generally this U will be having two components, which means that it can move along x-axis and it can move along y-axis. So U, I will be writing it as a function as the parameters of U and V, small u and V, which is displacement along x-axis and displacement along y-axis. So now if I what we call it as, if I resolute it or if I write down in the component form, so what will be F here? F, as I have already told you, F is a body force which is acting throughout the volume. So the body force, when it is acting, it will be acting in all the three directions. But for our analysis, we are doing a 2D analysis. We will be taking what are the forces which are acting along x and y axis. So we will be taking it as Fx and Fy. Fx and Fy. Okay. So now we will be writing the equation in the form of a shape function here. Okay. So shape function, when I want to write it, shape function I have to write it. So the shape function will be written with respect to the field variable. So these are the two field variables. This is the main field variable, just as the general displacement. When I want to write the general displacement will have two types of displacement which is happening. Okay, an element can move along x-axis as well as an element cannot move in y-axis. In the previous in the bar and all, we have done 1D analysis. In the 1D analysis, the element, okay, can have a generally one movement, but the node can have one or two degrees of freedom. Okay, but now the element only is having two types of displacement, that is U as well as V. Similarly, the nodes will also have the two types of displacement along x and y axis. So shape function, when I am writing it, I will be writing it for U, that is along x axis, as well as I will be writing it along V. Okay, so we will be writing first, I write N1. What are the parameters? What are the nodal displacements? So shape function will give the relationship between the field variable as well as the nodal displacement. So x-axis will have these three displacements: Q1, Q3, and Q5. So I will write it as N1 into Q1 plus N2 into Q3 plus N3 into the equation which we will be writing. So next we will be going for the V. When I go for the V, that is the y displacement, it is Q2, Q4 and Q6. So we will be writing that. So that is N1 into Q2 plus N2 into Q4 plus N3 into Q6. So these are the variables which will be taken in the shape function. So we have covered everything. U will be having, whenever U displacement happens, these are the nodal displacements which will contribute for the displacement of the field variable U. When I want to find out the field variable of V, Q2, Q4, Q6 will be the parameters which will be contributing for the displacement of V. Okay, so now we will be substituting here. We already know what is Fx and Fy. What is F here? It is the components Fx and Fy. So we will be substituting in this particular equation here. So when we write it, so work potential can be written as, so integration A. Okay. So next we will be substituting these two equations, that is U and V. So we will be writing it as N1 Q1 plus N2 Q3 equation for the U transpose we have written. Next we will be writing for the F. F is basically given as Fx and Fy. Okay, what is remaining here? T into D. T into D. Write it this equation. Okay, so next what we have to do is to just multiply the terms and we will be keeping it ready for the integration. Okay, so next what we will do is, so row wise, column wise, I will be doing the multiplication of this row wise and column wise. So work potential what happens here is, so this row will be multiplied with this particular column. So that is integration of with respect to A. So I have to write as N1 Q1 plus N2 Q3 plus N3 Q5, okay, into Fx plus, so this will be multiplied with the Fy term. So that will be N1 Q2 plus N2 Q4 plus N3 Q6, okay, into Fy into T into D. Okay, so that is a parameter which is remaining. So next what we will do is, we will take N1 parameters one side, N2 parameters one side and N3 parameters on the one side. Okay, so then we can easily do the integration of that. So what we will do is work potential. Okay, so if I take the common N1 here, this is N1, this is N1. Okay, so what we will be having? We will be having, if I take N1 as a common, F1 into Q1 into Fx, so Q1 into Fx plus Q2 into Fy, Q2 into Fy into integration. Integration is a common term with respect to A, N1 into D, N1 into D. So similarly, we will be writing it for the other terms plus, okay, plus integration, we will be taking N2 common now. If I take N2 common, Q3 Fx plus Q4 Fy integration, okay, A, N2 into D, N2 into D. Okay, next we will take the N3 common here. So N3 is Q5 and Q6. So we will be taking Q5 Fx plus Q6 Fy into integration A, N3 into D, N3 into D. Okay, so this is how the we have taken a common shape function for each of the nodal displacements. So now we will be doing the integration of this. Okay, so this integration is a bit lengthy process. Okay, I will be giving you the detailed derivation in the notes. When I do the integration of this, okay, when I do the integration of this, basically integration of shape function with respect to the area will be given as 1 by 3 AE. AE is nothing but the area of the element. Okay, so area of the element. Okay, so the detailed derivation is there in the notes which I will be giving you. Okay, so because this why we are not deriving here is this one derivation will be obtained when I take the shape function in the global coordinate system. When I take the shape function in the global coordinate system, I can easily find out the value of this shape function with respect to area. Okay, so this is 1 by 3 AE. So I just substitute here. So work potential is given as Q1 Fx plus Q2 Fy. Okay, so it will be 1 by 3 AE. This 1 by 3 AE plus Q3 Fx. Okay, Q3 Fx plus Q4 Fy into 1 by 3 AE. So plus Q5 Fx plus Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5, Q6, okay, into the constant T into AE by 3, T into AE by 3. If I write it in a matrix form, this will be Fx, Fy, Fx, Fy, and Fx, Fy. So if I multiply them, Q1 into Fx plus Q2 into Fy plus Q3 into Fx, Q4 into Fy, Q5 into Fx, and Q6 into Fy. So this will be the matrix form of the above equation. Okay. So when you see this particular equation, so work potential is nothing but force into displacement. So this is displacement, and this will be the force parameter. This will be the force parameter. So displacement is this, and this is the force parameter. So when I want to solve it by a body force, I have to take this as a parameter. This as a parameter to write the nodal loads. Okay, so the nodal loads will be on first node. Okay, 1 2, 1 2, 1 2. So this will be on the first node, this will be on the second node, and this will be on the third. So basically, we will be writing the force vector as, okay, a converted force vector for the body force as, if I take F, so that will be T into AE by 3 into Fx, Fy, Fx, Fy, Fx, and Fy. So these are the values of the force vector. You have to multiply the thickness and as well as the area. Okay, you will be getting the values of the body force here in the form of a density or something. Then we can later convert them into the nodal forces. Okay, thank you. Okay, hello everyone, I will come here for another session here. In this particular session, we will be calculating the load vector, which will be calculated because of a traction force. Okay, so because of a traction force, you might be seeing what is the traction force. You have seen the beams and all. So it is a distributed load acting along the element, acting along the particular length of the element. Okay, so when that particular type of an displacement, or sorry, a load which is acting on that particular element, when you come across, you cannot solve it directly by taking the load. Okay, so the traction might be in the form of a pressure, okay, or it might be in the form of uniformly distributed load. Okay, so in that case, what happens here is we need to find out the load vector, or which we need to find out the equivalent load which can be applied on the nodes in order to find out the solution of that particular element. So now if I see for this particular element, this is a triangular CST element which is being subjected to a traction force on the line which is having 1 and 2 node, which is having 1 and 2 node. So when I have a distributed load acting on that, because of the distributed load can be resolved into two axes. One is it is acting along x-axis and it is acting along y-axis, the distributed load, which is because whenever we have a car body or anything which is undergoing the impact or anything, because of the impact there will be a traction force which will be acting on that particular body. The traction force can be resolved into two types of forces, that is Tx1 which is acting along the x-axis and Ty which is acting along the y-axis. So we have shown a distributed load, the magnitude as Tx1 and Tx2 at the node 1 and node 2, Ty1 and Ty2 at node 2. Okay, node 1 and node 2. These are the components which we have at this particular case. Okay, so now we will be trying to find out the values of the load vector here. So once again we will be going for the same procedure, that is work potential due to traction force. So as we know that the work potential as the traction force is acting on a particular surface area. Okay, so we generally write it as work potential as integration of S, okay, that is the surface area, U transpose T into acting over a particular line. So if you see this line, it is also has a small thickness. It is acting on this particular line 1 and 2. Okay, 1 and 2, it is having a thickness T here and it is having a length. Okay, certain length. So now we can convert this work potential, okay, into the required traction equation. Okay, how to convert here is work potential I take. Okay, it is acting over a length. Okay, it is acting over a length. So the differential parameter will be the length here. So integration LE. Okay, integration LE U transpose T. Okay, into I'll convert the surface area into a constant thickness T and the length dl. So constant thickness T and length dl, which means that I have interested in a small element dl here and it has a thickness T. So then I will integrate over the length LE to find out the overall work potential. So this is a basic equation for the work potential subjected to a traction force for a 2D element. Okay. Now next we will be seeing the same thing which we have done for the body force. The U field variable will be having two components. That is called as U and V. Small u and v. So you know that u will be having a small component u and v. Similarly, traction will be having the components ex and ey. Ex and ey. Okay. So we will be writing that. So work potential is basically given as integration 0 to d. Here it is for the length 1 and 2 because it is acting on a particular element length. It is 1 and 2. So we are interested in 1 and 2. You can write it as 1 and 2 here. Okay. On that length it is acting. So 1 and 2 we have written. Next we will be writing u comma v here. U comma v. Then it will be the traction force Tx Ty into T into D. T into dx. Okay. So next, if you multiply that, work potential is basically given as u into Tx plus v into Ty. U into Tx plus u into Ty, v into Ty into T into dl. T into dl. Just we have done the multiplication of both the vectors. Okay, now once again we will be seeing an isoparametric equation. Isoparametric equation. Okay, parametric equation. So here what happens? Once again, isoparametric equation is nothing but the shape function equation which we will be seeing here. So u will be what here? You have to see what is u here. So u, we are interested only on the node 1 and 2 because the load is acting on the node 1 and 2. If you see here, it is having the q1 displacement along x-axis and q2 displacement along y-axis. This node 2 will be having q3 displacement along x-axis and q4 displacement along y-axis. So what we will be writing? We will be writing n1 q1 plus n2 q3 because only the x parameters we are taking here. So next comes what? V is equal to n1 q2 plus n2 q2. So these are the y parameters. See, in the previous case what we have done is we have taken a body force. So body force will be acting over the volume which will be acting on the individual elements. For that case we have taken n1 q1 n2 q3 and n3 q5. Here it is acting on a particular side of the element. For that case we have taken the shape function in this particular fashion. So next we will be writing the once again isoparametric equation. Okay, equation for traction force. Because when we are writing this is, see here, the node at the force at node 1 it is Tx1, at node 2 it is Tx2. So there is a variation of the force. Whenever the variation of the force is there, we will be trying to find out in the form of shape function. Okay, so if I want to write it in the form of a shape function, so basically a dx, it is a dx here. This side it is dx and this side it is dy. Okay, but we have a variation from tx1 to tx2. So what we will be writing here is tx is basically given as, okay, so here tx is being resolved into tx1 and tx2, ty is resolved as ty1 and ty2. So tx is basically given as n1 tx1 plus n2 tx2. Okay, n1 tx1 and n2 tx2. Similarly, ty is resolved as n1 ty1 plus n2 ty1. So this is the property of a isoparametric equation. Because of that isoparametric equation, we can write the variation of the value of the traction force in the form of a shape function values. Okay, so now we have got the values of uv and dx dy. We'll be just substituting in this particular equation. So we'll see what we'll be getting in this particular equation. So I just take a look from the top only. So if I write it, so I have to multiply, that is the work potential is given as integration LE. Okay, integration LE U is N1 Q1 N2 Q3. Okay, U is N1, I'll write it as N1 Q1 plus N2 Q3, N2 Q3. Okay, into you have this equation Ex. Ex is nothing but N1 Tx1 plus N2 Tx2. So into N1 Tx1 plus N2 Tx2. Okay, N2 Tx2. So similarly, we have to write the V parameter here plus, move it down, plus V is what? N1 Q2 N1 Q2 plus N2 Q4 has to be multiplied with the y parameters, that is force parameters, which is equal to into N1 Ty1 plus N2 Ty2 into what do you have? T into, so I'll take it as a flower bracket here, into T into dn. So this is the what we call it as the expansion of the values of u, dx, v and ty. So now we'll be solving this and we'll be segregating this. So what exactly we get here? If I substitute and segregate here, so I'll be taking a multiplication here, n1 square q1 into dx1. So once again we will just simplify it. So work potential integration LE. So if I solve it, so this becomes n1 square q1 dx1, okay, plus n1 n2 q1 dx2. Okay, so dx2 here, this is the first multiplication. So if I do the second multiplication plus n1 n2 dx1 we have to do it. So when you solve this, we have to do the integration of the shape function here. So you have to do the integration of shape function with respect to dl. Okay, with respect to dl we have to do the integration. So here integration, so what we will be getting, integration of n1 square into dl. Okay, one is that one. Integration of n2 square dl. Integration of n1 n2 into dl. Okay, so these are the three parameters which we need to do the integration here. So this integration I have given in the notes. How the integration has been done, I have showcased in the notes, because here it will be a lengthy process here. So what we will be doing is we will be getting here is 1 by 3 le. So this is 1 by 3 le, and here we will be getting it as 1 by 6 le. So this is a simplification process. Okay, this is a simplification process. So when I solve this, so I have to substitute in the main equation. So when I substitute, I just rub out this. These are lengthy equations. So what will be getting? So work potential will be getting T. Okay, T is a common term there. So T into, so we will be getting it as Q1 Tx1. Okay, Q1 Tx1. This is capital letter. Tx1 into 1 by 3 le, that is le by 3 plus Q3. Okay, Q3 Q3 Tx1 divided by le by 3. L1 into no, it is le by 6 plus Q1 T x2 le by 6, then plus Q3 Tx2 le by 3 plus Q2 T y1 le by 3. The same thing, you have to just substitute the values, plus Q4 Ty1 le by 6. Okay, so similarly plus Q2 Ty2 le by 6 plus Q4 Ty2 le by. So this is when you substitute these values, you will be getting this equation. So from here we have to segregate the nodal displacements as well as the traction forces. So just we have to write down the nodal displacements here. So if I just solve it, I will just take the nodal displacements out of this Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So if I do that, this is a common term you will be getting. So if I take only Q1, so Q1 is available from here and here. I will be taking Q1 term common here. So T is common already. Work potential T into. So if I take Q1 here, so what you will be getting? Tx1. Okay, Tx1 le by 3 plus this one Tx2 le by 6. Tx2 le by 6. So similarly, if I take Q2 common, okay, plus Q2 common, so what I will be getting? So Q2 is here as well as here. So once again, you will be getting Ty1 le by 3, okay, plus Ty2 le by 6. Okay, so similarly, if you do it for Q3, you will be getting Tx1 le by 6 plus Tx2 le by 3. So similarly, if you take for Q4, it will be Ty1 le by 6 plus Ty2 le by 3. Okay, so this is the equation. So we need to just segregate Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 and we'll be writing in a matrix form. So work potential. So already T you have here, we'll be multiplying T to the force vector here. So what are the nodal displacements you have? Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. These are the four nodal displacements which you have taken common. We'll be writing in a matrix form. So if I take L by 6 as a common here, so it is T common here, this one. L by 6, if I take it, whatever the parameters are remaining, we'll be just writing it out. So it is L by 6, if I take it, becomes 2 Tx1, okay, plus Tx2, okay. So similarly here, 2 Ty1 plus Ty2. So if I take here, it becomes Tx1 plus 2Tx2. So here it becomes Ty1 plus 2Ty1. So this is how we will be getting the equation here. So from this work potential, you know that it is displacement into force. Okay, so this is displacement parameter and this will be the force parameter here. So we will be writing the traction force here. So basically the traction force now it is converted into the nodal displacement as T L by 6. Okay, it is 2 Tx1 plus Tx2, 2 Ty1 plus Ty2. Okay, Tx1 plus 2 Tx2 plus Ty1 plus 2 Ty2. So this is how we need to derive the the load vector for the traction force. So there is a bit simplification involved in this. So after simplification, you will be getting the solution for this particular equation.